What was it like going in to catch them?
It was about as easy as I expected. From observing them the past few times that I've dove with them, um, grab them by pretty much by the threes or fours, and pack them in your bag. Easy to grab. They just they give up after like you were saying after a few like flicks of the tail. They sort of hover there in the water. And there's so many of them. The hardest part is deciding where to outreach your arm and make a commitment to a handful. Uh,
It's really it's not hunting.
No, it's
It's
yeah,
gathering.
it's a harvesting or a gathering.
It's like
Like
picking tuna crabs.
I mean, if you could imagine if you had a net, like a pool net, like a little open pool net, you'd fill it up just by swimming, not even trying. You would fill it up in 20 feet.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
easy. Like so that just I don't know if that paints a picture for everybody that they just sort of hover there
Well, I think it
as you
paints.
approach them. They hover in the water as if they want you to scoop them up. They make
Take
themselves
me, take
more
me.
accessible by getting off the ground.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here, let me get. You don't want any sand with this.
I'm a victim. I'm a victim.
You want to eat with or without sand? I can jump, and you can get a sand-free meal. you know.
uh, I think their greatest defense is the fact that there's just not a lot of meat to them. Because
Yeah.
that was well
Well, at
without
least for
without skipping ahead. So we grabbed him, we brought him back.
human.
You brought out your deluxe burner set, which
Yes.
I'm still having a little bit of gear jealousy.
I pulled that out of storage. I'm glad it still works.
Um, and so we were thinking crawfish. So how did you decide to prepare it?
I pretty much just from what I read online and looking at the anatomy and size of them, they reminded me just like crawfish. And I had on my externship in culinary school, I did it in New Orleans. This was in '99. And I was there. I lived there for about 8 months, and lived and worked there.
How
And,
was that?
oh, it was
Living
awesome.
in New Orleans?
It was awesome. It was amazing. It was pre Katrina, so it was kind of it was before, and I saw
So it was
what happened
drier.
afterward. Well, it was definitely I'd say it was a different city. It
Really?
still had more of the elements of its older world. Like dining scene wise, the dining scene completely changed after Katrina. A lot of chefs went there to help rebuild, and with that, they brought a lot of refined cooking and different cooking from around the world and different skills. Whereas when I was there, it was very rooted and pretty much how they had been cooking for the past 200 years, which was really interesting because New Orleans in itself is its own little
Mixing pot, right?
yeah, it's
Like
its own, like you
there's whole books dedicated
mhm,
describing how Creole and the style of food and
Cajun,
everything
yeah.
was a mix of North American, French,
Yeah, you had
and the Caribbean
so you had the
and
Creoles, which I if I'm right, and forgive me if I get this a little mixed up, but I'm pretty sure that's right. The Creoles were a mix of the African slaves of like the Canary Islands and the Caribbean, mixing with the French settlers
okay,
in Louisiana. That would make
right.
that would make the
Pre
Creole.
Louisiana Purchase for all you
hmm
history buffs.
And then and the Cajuns would be the Native Americans mixing with the Spanish. So when you get, and then when you so you have Cajun cuisine and culture and Creole cuisine and culture, a lot of them ended up, of course, just mixing together. But you can see the roots of them in something more like a jambalaya would be
Is
more
it jambalaya or jambalaya?
jambalaya, jambalaya, I don't know. Jambalaya.
No, I don't want to go to. And listen, we need
Oh
to
well, if you
settle
want to
this
say,
because I don't want to go to I don't want to go down there and
well,
just
we
be
already
told.
messed it up when we said New Orleans
Oh, New Orleans.
because it's
Oh,
one word
jeez.
to them. It's
That's right.
Nolans.
New Orleans.
Yeah. So
Uh,
for all intents and purposes, we're
I'm gonna.
Yanks, and
I was
it's
gonna
never
get called a
gonna,
Yankee for sure.
and we're never not gonna be.
That's
So
fine. Getting back to our thing, we were gonna cook these things Cajun
yes.
style,
Yes, and so I had experience working with crawfish a lot from living in New Orleans and doing crawfish boils.
and I
Um,
have to say, you brought over the biggest pot I have ever seen, and we filled it. I did not think we were going to be able to fill it, but we filled it.
we filled it, and it's a very small pot in my world, but but
Okay,
it's
my
about
bad.
yeah, I'd say it's probably like a 30 to 40 quart pot, maybe 30 quart.
Okay. That's a tiny pot, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a smaller pot
I
for
wouldn't even call it a pot. I would refer to it as a cauldron.
that.
It's like you put Ian Newt in something that size.
But yeah, so we did the traditional, crawfish boil, heavily spiced water with aromatics, like onion, celery, whole cloves of garlic, lemons, bay
And what
leaf.
I was surprised about is you did real rough cuts with
Yeah,
things like
because
garlic and celery.
yes, because we're not going to be eating those elements, they're really just to flavor the water. I also placed them. You saw we had the basket with, that we were able to pull the seafood out of the boiling liquid when we wanted to.
Yeah.
And when we put in all the aromatics, we put it in without the strainer so that all the things we didn't want to eat wouldn't get into our seafood.
Keep the nasty stuff away.
Yeah, but you still benefit from the flavor. So it's just understanding, and this is a very culinary thing, but it's just understanding what your application is and what you're trying to do and how the finished product is going to be, and then you can manipulate it to be more of an easier and cleaner process, an effective process, understanding the different techniques and how you're going to end up serving it.
Now, the seafood aside, what shined in that thing was the potatoes.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my God, the potatoes were so good.
I wish we used smaller ones because then we would have got a little more flavor permeating through the entire potato.
I'm not a totally spicy guy, so the size of the potato was okay because I could mix like the outside, which was spiced real heavily, like just had a lot of flavor, with like the inside that was just a little bit more mellow. So I could kind of find the mix of the two that I liked. It
For
was
me, it
good.
was
I liked
about
it. I thought it turned out really nice.
Thank you. It's about a 6 for me on the.
I'm gonna go
on
ahead and
success.
assume you have a higher standard than me.
I'll never.
I'm like, did I not burn
I'll
it?
never give myself a 10.
10. Yeah.
But so yeah, so we did they behaved exactly how I expected them to. They ate exactly how I expected them to. We did the same thing. We twist off the head, suck the head out, pinch the bottom of the tail, grab the meat with your teeth, and try to pull it out. With crawfish, you actually have more meat and a sturdier meat.
Yeah, I was
and
gonna say that was the thing
and a
that was
sturdier shell
interesting.
too. And
Yeah,
yes,
everything was real soft.
yeah, they were just. I would reserve tuna crabs for if you were like on a deserted island and you were free diving for your food and you're like, oh shit, there's tuna crabs. This is gonna be an easy couple days because you have nothing else to do but pick meat out of these things.